Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Fetch Quest podcast, where we talk about video games and more. I'm your host, Guy, joined by my fellow co-host, Brewer
Hey, everybody.
and Connor.
Hello. So, guys, I recently just replayed Persona 5 Royal, and man, I forgot how much sauce that this game had.
Yeah, man, I love the UI in the game as well. It looks so pretty.
UI, yeah, the UI especially is just gorgeous.
Okay, that's cool and all, but how exactly can the UI be stylish?
Another one of Guy's hilarious trolls.
Wait, what do you mean?
Oh my lord, Guy, if this is your idea of like a bit, I would just stick to your day job, man.
Yeah, put the fries in the bag, man. Go back to your 9 to 5.
Guys, what are you talking about? The UI is fucking awful. What do you mean? It's awful to look at.
Okay, you're starting to piss me off, fry boy.
Yeah, Guy, this game's UI is art. Like, are you high, dude?
I don't know why you guys keep hyping this shit up. I mean, like, what's so good about a urethral injection?
What?
That's what UI means, urethral injection. Like, why the fuck are y'all hyping that up?
Guy, you are terminally stupid. UI means user interface, dumbass. God, you really do need to put the fries in the bag.
Oh, user interface like in video games. Oh, okay, that makes more sense. Okay, I agree then. Yeah, Persona 5 is actually pretty good, which takes us into today's topic. User interface, aka UI, not urethral injections. No, we're not that kind of channel here.
Thank God.
That'd be awful. Oh my god.
Welcome to the Fetch Quest urethral injection.
We are now pivoting.
Today we're going to teach you how to do a urethral injection here at Fetch Quest Podcast.
We're pivoting to an educational healthcare channel.
Look forward to next week's episode about prostate exams.
I'll just release like one health-related video onto the channel, and that just get like over 1 million views. I would pivot immediately.
The man's got no spine at all. Which is why I'm going to talk about the anatomy of the spine and how terrible it is.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Did you know that
yeah,
there's
no.
100 and something bones in the human body? I don't know. I'm not a health major.
It's crazy.
Yeah, we all put the fries in the bag.
Getting into today's topic, we're going to be talking about like one of the most important aspects of like a video game is the user interface, the UI. But before we get into that, I think we need to do our job of defining what exactly a user interface is. Basically, like a user interface, there's one in every single video game, whether you think there is or not. It's basically like the menus of the game, like when you pause and you have options to like either like change stuff out in the settings or just like choose like certain things. Basically, it's a menu of sorts, and every game has a different UI, and the UI differs depending on like genre a lot of the time. So like, let's say like the UI of like a shooter game like Marvel Rivals or Call of Duty, their menus are just typically aimed towards like cosmetics and like getting you towards the game, and they don't really have that much of a UI in game.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you have like a turn-based JRPG, which you're going through the menus all the time for like, you know, changing out your stats and changing out your equipment and stuff like that. So those are like the different uses of UI, but pretty much like how approachable is the menu is like determines how good of a UI it is.
Yeah, and it's very slept on like feature, I think, just because a good menu is something that you're not going to notice. It will be very underappreciated a lot of times because you'll be able to quickly go in, change whatever you need to, and then go back to the game. But also you may enjoy going to the menu as well to like customize your stats, customize your equipment as well. A good menu doesn't make you think, man, I gotta change all this shit out. Whereas a bad menu will stick out like a sore thumb and be like, damn, I gotta scroll through all these options and then find the exact thing I need in a pile of like millions of different items. It's something that can like be very hard to get right. But the thing is, when you do get it right, a lot of people just won't notice.
Yeah,
You were gonna say something, Connor?
I was gonna say, I will say that UI is not exclusive to just like menus. There's also stuff like battle UI, combat UI, stuff like that.
I was just about to mention that. Yeah.
Yeah, like there's a lot of UIs in a lot of places. Like I guess what to differentiate between. Um, so just imagine any JRPG or not JRPG, just any turn-based RPG that you could think of. Persona 5, Deltarune, just any one that like comes to mind. And this when you're interacting with the menus, like hitting the pause button to like check items, check, equip stuff. That's the menu UI. Where your battle UI is stuff where you're doing what you're doing in game. So in like P5, when you go to use your persona, or you go or in to like change party members or whatever, that's your combat UI as long as that's in combat.
Yeah.
This also applies to shooters as like not just that, but like games like shooters like Call of Duty and Marvel Rivals, like I mentioned earlier. Like a really good example of the UI is the thing that shows your ammo, how much ammo you have, what gun you have, and like the usually in like the bottom corners, your health, whether your ult is available or whatnot. The stuff is like that is a part of your character, like are a part of displaying information for you that is vital to your character or whatever you're doing in the game. That's UI.
Yeah, basically it's just a showing of like any information the developers feel like a player needs to keep track of throughout the game, which can vary because some things you would think that you always need in a game aren't always there. Like, let's say I'm playing some like Elden Ring. Obviously, I'm going up against the boss. I want the boss health bar to be there, and I want to be pretty big so I can know when exactly this demon spawn is gonna die. But then some games like Monster Hunter, where like you're fighting some monsters for like 20 to 40 minutes, you don't even know how much health they have. Like, you don't know at all. There's no health bar. Well, at least for now. It could be different with Wilds. But that's a part of the game design as well, because they want you to like read into the monster, read its habits, see if it's like panting, if it's tired. So you aren't always going to have the same stuff. It's just whatever the developer thinks you need to see. Because also, an easy mistake is to just give the player too much information and overload them, because then it's just going to be a big turnoff to play your game in the first place.
Yeah, and then there's also that balance of not giving the player enough information to where, because they don't have that information to build off of, they also don't want to play the game. It's a very fine balance of like how much information does the player need to have, or how much information do you want them to have. I think a game that I've actually played recently that does, in terms of limited AI well, would be
AI?
No, did I say AI? I swear I said.
You said AI, yeah.
I'm pretty sure. If I did, I didn't mean to. I meant to say UI. But a game that does its limited UI very well would be Outer Wilds. In that game, you have almost nothing in terms of UI. You have a thing in the top right that tells you it's a space exploring game. So the only thing you have is in the top left is a diagram telling you how much fuel you have in your jetpack and how much health you have, or how much oxygen you have left. And then obviously a thing that will display your health, but it only convey the information by how much the little character gets like red. The more red you are, the more injured you are. And then you've got a few things in the other corners, like which direction you're going, or the like very limited map of the planet you're on. And I think the game does its UI very well, because that's really that's all the information you need in order to get through the game, and I love it for that. That's the thing I really like about the game.
No, and that's a cool thing. It's like UI, like the more complex video games get, the more complex UI is getting. So like when you have games like that are like limiting the UI, it's usually for like an artistic reason, and I think that's really cool when they do stuff like that. Because like a lot of times, like these games, as I'm saying, like the more complex they're getting, the more UI is getting complex, because like the developers need to like let you know what information is being like what information is volatile in this given moment. So like it's really cool to see like games like Outer Wilds just like limit that, because they're trying to give you an experience that doesn't need it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like This is something I want to talk about in terms of like unique UI. Like you mentioned Outer Wilds. Some games that I think had to like restructure their UI in a sense of like because of the system they were on. I think for the most part did it pretty well was like games on the DS and 3DS. For all these youngins who never had a DS because like the Switch is the most dominant thing in the world now. um the 3DS and the DS, because of the two screen feature, developers had to be able to adapt their games to utilize both screens so that they can make effective use of like UI and whatever information they had to give. Like Pokemon games, the like when you were in battle, the HP and the Pokemon in the battle would be displayed on the top screen, but like the fighting for clicking moves, your Pokemon, the runaway, and the bag was all depicted on the bottom screen. So like those games had to use they had to use both screens in a way that would give the player an ample amount of information, but also like had to constrain themselves within the limits of the DS and 3DS in a very fun and cool way.
Yeah, the Wii U had that as well. With like a lot of games, a really simple one was just always putting like the map on the secondary screen. That way, instead of having to just pull it up in the menu, you could always just look down and see, okay, this is where I'm at right now, this is where I need to go, instead of like pulling it up and down, if you're just confused at where you're at. Though at that point, maybe need to redesign your map, but that's a topic. Yeah.
No, I get that, man.
Yeah, no, I do kind of hope with the Switch 2, maybe there's like, we've obviously seen some of the, we've seen the video, but like, hey, maybe there'll be a little attachment or a mode for like a second screen to like properly play some DS games, because like some of those just do not port very well over.
I mean, like, yeah, a lot of people are like, port the 3DS games, do it, yeah. The one thing they fail to realize is that like those games were meant for two screens, so like adapting them is a lot harder than you think.
Yeah.
You're not the game dev.
Yeah, well, sometimes it is like there is like bad like user interface when the developers have like forced constraints or like stuff they're forced to add when they don't really need it. Like I mentioned, you only want to give so much information. And I think in a way, sometimes like the DS screens or like having a second screen actually was a detriment. You wouldn't think it is, but because it was always a shiny feature, they always wanted to make it a large part of the game, even when they really didn't need to. Sort of like the Wii's motion controls. They could be really good sometimes, and then other times you get a cheap $5 bargain bin game, you waggle it, and then it doesn't even do what you tried to do or mimic it at all. It just kind of flies across the screen. You're like, what the hell am I playing?
Yeah,
So like a second DS screen can be very similar in essence to where like sometimes it's like they're giving you too much, that, or they're forcing stuff that you really don't need in there. I think a good example would maybe be a couple of the Castlevania DS games, because this is a little separate from the menuing stuff we're talking about, but one of the games, I think it was Dawn of Sorrow, whenever you beat a boss, you basically had to do a little drawing mini game to make a seal, and if you failed to draw that seal, then the boss would regain some health and the fight would continue until you got it right.
That's crazy.
So imagine in like Elden Ring, you're fighting fucking like Melania. You finally take her down, but right when you take her down, you have to do like a platforming mini game, and if you fail a single jump, boom, you gotta go back. She gets a fifth of her HP back.
Yeah, there's a lot of examples like that in game and like 2DS, or not 2DS, just like DS and Wii U games especially. One that comes to mind of like where it was actually like kind of a good thing, but like definitely a needed thing, is Sonic Colors on the DS. I played that once I got a modded 3DS, and it's a great game, but something that I think that they do is really cool is that, and because of the DS's limits in terms of like not being able to make these huge 3D levels like in the original colors, what they do instead is they make these very big vertical 2D courses. And the way they get by with like being able to have this huge verticality is that there are two sort of ways you can go. And you've got the top screen and the bottom screen, and you're able to go between the screens in order to move throughout the levels and stuff like that. And I think that's just a really cool gimmick in that game.
Oh yeah. What are some like really fun UIs that like we're thinking of like nowadays? I know like we have a good list here of some like really good UIs. I know some people are going to be mad at some of our choices for bad UIs, but like I want to start like a discussion with like some stuff that like people can take example from.
So for good UI, there's a game that all three of us are gonna talk about, and I say we just bite the bullet and go ahead and just say the name of that game at the on the count of 3. If that's all right.
All right.
Uno.
All right, yeah.
Dos.
One,
Tres.
2, 3. Persona
Stray.
5
Royal. What did you say, Brewer?
Stray. I wanted to be different.
Bro's trying to be unique.
Bro's trying to be unique. That's
Hey,
crazy.
isn't that literally what your fucking game is about? The one you just mentioned? Yeah. Shut up. Shut up. Yeah.
Bro is a hater right now. Oh my god.
Yeah, bro woke up and chose to be a hater. That's crazy.
I chose the persona of Kratos. I'm a hater. I'm not that of War Kratos. I'm just like I'm the original Kratos, pure malice.
Zeus.
Yeah, but Persona 5 is like probably has one of the best menus to date. That and also one of the best battle UIs as well. Because it is just so colorful and pretty to look at. Whenever you think of a JRPG menu, you think of it's gonna pull up all this text, sort through the items, bunch of plain text. Persona 5 says screw all that though. You have this menu that's moving, has a bunch of different parts in it. Your characters are jumping around in it. It has a lot of style that like the colors pop out to you, and it looks really attractive to look at. Where you actually don't really mind being in the menu.
Brewer is attracted to the Persona 5 menu. More at 5.
People have literally cosplayed as like the battle UI. I don't want to hear it.
That is true.
Oh, yeah,
that has happened, which is insane to me.
That's
Multiple times, and it's probably going to keep happening.
Yeah, no. Persona 5 Royals UI is very, very, very good. I mean, as you were saying, Brewer, it literally makes you not want to leave the menu. And this isn't like a Persona 5 Royal exclusive thing. Persona 3 Reload does this. It's not quite as stylish, but I also really like Metaphor's UI. I think it's very cool. I haven't beat
It's really, everything looks like a painting in that game, and I love it.
Yeah. Well, the best thing about all their menus, like this is the one thing they have in common. They get to the point, like you don't have to sort through a bunch of items. You can quickly find whatever you need. They don't make you stay in there longer than you need to, because that's the worst thing a menu can do, which is like I think something a lot of older JRPGs struggle with is just you gotta go to each character, you gotta look at their individual stats, all of which is just plain text. You want to level the stat? Okay, scroll through to your items, which are not sorted out for some reason. Here's the seed that levels strength, and then apply it to this character. Now you got to go do that again because it's not letting you reuse it for some reason. Because again, it's a lot of little things that can always build up. Like, oh, I want to sell something. Let me sell all something at once. Or, oh, I'm buying an item. Let me buy multiple at once. Like, I think Earthbound had this as, like, it was a really big issue. Well, not was, it still is, because I haven't remade the game. But whenever you wanted to, like, buy an item, you'd have to, like, talk to the shopkeeper. Yes, I want to buy the item. Here's the money. Here's who's going to hold it. And oh, you wanted to store some items because you could barely hold anything in that game? Okay, call the delivery service. Here's the items that they're going to store for you. Oh, you can only give them 3 items at a time for whatever fucking reason. Take my items, call them again, because again, they can only hold 3 items. It's just really clunky. Really, really clunky.
And this is...
That sounds like it, dude. Ew.
Dude, as much as I like love those older Nintendo RPGs. Like Earthbound has like a lot of magic to it. That and Mother 3 as well. They don't tell Nintendo I played a fan patch of it. God, they could be some clunky games to get through.
Damn, Brewer really wants to die today. Not only
Hey, you mentioned you played Sonic Colors on a modded 3DS. I do not want to hear it from you.
Well, no, I'm just saying. Not only did you say a singular bad thing about Earthbound, but you also said you played a fan version of Mother 3. Like, at least
Yeah, bro's gonna get executed.
Yeah, at least I played a Sonic game. But no.
You're acting like you aren't getting executed for that on Twitter.
At least I would get killed.
We're both dying from firing squad.
I'm getting canceled. You're getting executed by a Nintendo Ninja who's just sitting outside your window.
Same thing.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
But
oh my god.
Yeah, moving on from me getting killed by Nintendo Ninjas.
Yeah, so a game that I want to talk about that I think has a very good UI is actually, and I know Guy can back me up on this, is RE2. I really like RE2's UI and the fact that it is very simple. And it works because, it's a horror game. And so by the, and even then I'm going to say the lack of information the UI will give you sometimes, because you can't even really know how much health you have left besides a general knowledge of oh, you're a green, you're a yellow, you're a red, it's really, you can't really tell where you are on the map besides looking at what room you're in. But there's just the lack of information the game gives you sometimes really helps with the fear factor and stuff like that, and I really like that.
Well, definitely. I think another good thing to mention is how a UI can get you involved into the game that are surprise your expectations. You're mentioning being scary for Resident Evil. I think I mentioned this a while ago in a horror video, but there's some games called or a game series called Yomawari, and one of the games, I think it's not Lost in the Dark, Night Alone. Wait, God, I'm mixing up. There's too many games I play. Either way, in the series, there is a game where it betrays your expectations with the menu, because you're going through the game, you're picking stuff up in the tutorial, and you're just looking through items and stuff, nothing that would be too out of line. And then all of a sudden, when you pull up your menu, a monster just drags that shit down and it fucking jump scares you.
Dude, you got Five Nights at Freddy.
It's better than Five Nights at Freddy. I'm sorry. Don't at me.
Well,
nothing is better than that. What do you mean?
Yeah. One other thing I want to mention too is so some of those games as well have another example of a good lack of UI as well. Because in the game, whenever there's a spooky, scary monster nearby, you'll hear a heartbeat, your own heartbeat, start thumping. It'll get louder and louder as the monster gets closer. The screen will start vibrating a little, and hell, your controller will have a little rumble effect as well. So I feel like those do a really good job of saying, hey, the monster's gonna come and fucking get you, instead of just loud scream.
Yeah, something
it's gonna come.
Yes.
Okay. I was gonna say something that I think a lot of games don't there's a lot of games that don't really take advantage of this a lot. I mean, there are definitely a few examples, but I feel like there is a lot you can do of fucking with the UI in order to evoke emotions in the player. And a example that I think does this in spades and I know these two are probably gonna groan when I say this. Yeah, Undertale. I love the constant way that the game will just fuck with the UI to evoke a lot of different emotions from you. And
No, that is a good example though.
Yeah, especially because for its time, not many games really did that. It very much popularized that stuff and has inspired a lot of games to pull that type of shit now.
Yeah, and I think it's fine to spoiler this because Undertale's like, as much as I hate to say this, Undertale is really old now. I think it's getting very close to like 10 years at this point.
I feel so fucking old. Oh my god.
Oh god, that is insane.
Yeah, so I don't feel super bad spoiling this, but in one of the ending fights, end game fights against Asgore, you're going into the fight, and a huge mechanic throughout the game has been the fact that once you know, like, be nice enough to a monster, you can hit the mercy button and spare them, and it's a huge mechanic of the game. But when you get to the Asgore fight, instead of he just straight up destroys the mercy button, and anyone will say on their first playthrough, if they haven't had it spoiled for them already, is that that is a incredibly like holy shit moment of like, oh, this guy's not fucking playing around and I'm about to get fucked. And I think, and there's a lot more examples of that in that game, that and honestly in Deltarune too, but there's just so many, like Toby Fox especially is just has a really good way of being able to fuck with the game's UI in order to evoke emotions out of the player, and I think it's something that a lot more games should be doing.
Oh yeah, no, that.
No. You bring up a good point though. Yeah, you first, bro.
Oh no, I was just in agreement.
Yeah, no. That's a good example though. Like the UI is such a special thing for a video game because it is you are constantly messing with some sort of UI that like when something like that happens that breaks the norm, it's crazy and it's cool. It's cool as
Yeah,
fuck.
I mean, you know, it's your comfort zone. So like, when you're taken out of your comfort zone, it puts you in a state of shock, and then developers can really capitalize on that by like making something really cool happen right after.
Yeah, and there's I think that we have been talking enough about good UIs for a bit, unless anyone has like a very standout example.
There's something I want to mention as well. I think it's just like more immersive UI and menu design, because I think it's really cool when like the menus are like kind of just built into like the lore of the game that are also just like into the world building itself. Like
yeah.
let's say Nier Automata, like when you're checking the menus there, you're kind of just I'm sorry, long day at work for me, but you're kind of just checking your hard drives in all honesty, because 2B is a robot. So like so like kind of breaking the layer there.
Yeah.
But then also like some more casual ones, like a game I played a while ago, Stray. You play as a tiny cat. It is a stray. So as you imagine, I want to keep it pretty simple. Make it really feel like a cat.
The exaggerated swagger of a cat.
Yeah, it's a very adorable cat. But one thing I like about the game is like any of the stuff that like you need to like kind of progress in the story, that more so being just like objectives they give you. You have a little robot pal, since like the whole game is like kind of post-apocalyptic. They have all these robots living, and you yourself have a little robot friend that kind of helps you along in a journey. The game doesn't just tell you which objectives to do. The robot will give you the objectives and will kind of speak them out to you. So it's not just like a casual menu that's just pops up all the information you need. It's like, no, you got a little buddy. That's the reason you know all this stuff, and that's how you know where to go. It's kind of pointing you in the right direction. I just kind of like some of that immersion stuff. Like, hey, this is the reason why it's happening in game. Like Metaphor Refantasio, like the reason you hear music while exploring a lot of areas is because your little fairy friend Gallica like has magic to play music in your head. I think kind of just like little in-game world building stuff like that is just kind of cool to see.
Yeah, when it's diegetic to the world. And I've sort of just realized as we've been going, but I think this would still be a good place to put it, as we are probably now transitioning over to bad UIs. What, in our opinions, makes a good UI? I can go first if anyone doesn't want to. In fact, I would actually like to go first.
No, you're not allowed to go first. Yeah, I'm kidding. You're good. You go first, Connor.
Okay, so in my opinion, there are 3 things that makes a good UI for a game, and obviously this isn't set in stone. You can experiment. Some people might have more, but in terms of like least to most important in terms of me for what makes a good UI, the least important is the visuals of the UI, because I personally do not think you have to have a good UI in order to like a good looking UI to have a good UI. Um, and obviously some others might disagree, but for example, Minecraft's UI is very basic, but due to just the type of Minecraft is and how useful the UI for it is, it's a good UI, or it doesn't have to be stylish or flashy or anything like that. The second most important thing was like, does it like does it fit within like the style of the game? So for example, if we're going back to Minecraft, if Minecraft's UI was something like super flashy, like Persona 5 or like an Atlas game or something like that, it'd be kind of off-putting, and I wouldn't like it because it just would not feel like the same game. And so I feel like that's a very like big part of making a good UI, of it actually like stylistically fitting in with the rest of the game. And then lastly, what I think the most important part of a like that makes a good UI would be practicality of like how useful this is, because if you can make the most stylistic UI you want, but if it sucks ass to navigate through, I'm not going to think it's a good UI. And as we were saying earlier, there's a lot of older JRPGs that I think could fit in this, where they have pretty stylish or like UIs for the time, but because they're super ass to go through and navigate, they kind of suck. And then that's, in my opinion, that's what makes good UIs.
Yeah, I think I have some very similar points, so I'm just gonna keep mine, I think, brief to just a couple points. First, give me what I need. Like, don't overbear me with information. Just give me what I need to actually understand your game and actually proceed through it, and what I need to keep track of. Because if you give me too much, then my brain's just gonna be scrambled, or I may even, like, some parts may become a red herring to where, like, I'm gonna focus on this one element way too much over something else. So I think just, like, giving the player too much information, that's something very important. Next is just like a little bit of style. You want your menus to look good, because if it's something that I'm gonna be having to look at for hours and hours in a game, I want it to look pleasing to the eye, not just like basic box with text in it. And then I think next is just like practicality. Like, can I quickly get in and out of it? Is there a reason parts of this need to be clunky? Is it for the design? Do I need to like have some like risk reward here, or is it just like getting in my way of enjoying the game?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, some very similar points, but I think those are just the key ones off the top of my head.
Yeah, Guy, do you have any?
I mean, I'm with Brewer, like, mostly in agreement on this. Like, I'm just gonna be dittoing a lot, but like, pretty much, like, as long as I can understand what's happening with the UI and like it's digestible, I can know where to go if I want to change something, I think it's good. Now, a lot of people will say when they think of good UI, they'll go for like the fucking extreme and go immediately for Persona 5, which, yes, that's probably like the best UI in all video games. However, just because it has great UI doesn't mean something like Marvel Rivals doesn't have good UI, you know what I mean? Because I think that game actually is really good UI in terms of like showing you what abilities you have, what your ammo's at, etc. But like, no one's gonna like compare it to Persona 5 in terms of like quality, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I completely agree. But now with that, I think we should talk about bad UIs.
Just some bad menus in general.
Yeah, this is kind of like easier to define, honestly. Like, I feel like we're all in agreement on this when we say that like a bad UI is typically something that's like not the easiest to navigate, and you're not able to tell immediately where stuff is in terms of like settings, equipment, or just like information.
It's like what I said at the beginning of the episode. Good user interface and menu is something that like you won't even notice or think about. which means it's designed well because you shouldn't have to think about it. But a bad user interface is one that you will actually be thinking about because you're thinking, why the hell is this so clunky? Where the hell is the information I need? Or where the hell are my items? It sticks out like a sore thumb. So, yeah.
Yeah, and like a lot of this is like a good amount of it is like also like hardware limitations. A good amount of the time, also a good amount of the time it's not. But like, let's just take like Final Fantasy VII for instance, one of my favorite games of all time. You're gonna go to that menu a lot, whether it's to change your limits, whether it's to change your party members, your equipment, your materia. A lot of the times it's for the materia. The materia isn't too bad because it's colored, but where I think it kind of has a problem is with its with how you manage items and equipment, because it doesn't really do a lot to differentiate like what does what. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, that and sometimes it can be very misleading as well, especially some of the late game's weapons, because it'll be like, oh yeah, no, this the weapon does like 100 less attack, but also it has the special advantage of if your enemy is like this beast type or something or a boss, it does like ×5 damage. And it'll just like not really include that in any text that you would easily be able to see. I think Elden Ring kind of has that problem as well, to where like there's a couple of weapons that have like some really cool secondary effects, but like they're in just some flavor text that a lot of players aren't gonna naturally just be reading.
Yeah, like this just one off the top of my head, but Raksha's armor from Shadow of the Erdtree, it says like it increases damage you do, but also increase the damage taken. Cool. It doesn't tell you how much.
Yeah, and it doesn't really tell
And
you
that's a
that
problem.
like with the defense you get from it, it's kind of negligible in all honesty.
No, really.
I feel like
And
a lot of the Souls games
know.
have that issue with like any of the items that like it increases these stats, but you take more damage. Like Prisoner's Chain and Dark Souls 3. Like I always just use that because like you get extra vitality along with a bunch of other stats, and it just says you take more damage. Okay, well I gained extra health, so like, do I take more damage than the health I just gained? Is it percentage based now? What? How much more damage do I take from this monster that's trying to kill me with a giant electric spear?
It's a lot harder to determine too, like how much like damage you're taking too, because like even in Elden Ring, you can see like what your damage reduction numbers are, but the thing is that like a lot of it is percentage based, so like it's kind of just it's I'm not gonna say egregious, but it's just annoying to the fucking player having to like, if they don't want to like go on the internet, they have to like do like multiplication with a calculator and shit to like understand this shit.
Yeah,
to like its most utility.
Looking at the older games in this whole series, I think they've definitely taken steps to make it more user friendly or like more beginner friendly. But like when I first played Elden Ring, I still needed like a good explanation from Guy before I fully understood it, because they kind of just throw you into the waters and then they're like, all right, here you go. Yeah, you get a half broken sword. Here's your Crimson Tears, and here's a guy that wants to stab you. Good luck.
I remember when I was first starting it out, it took me so long to figure out like, you know, what does leveling up what stat do? Because the game really does not like communicate that well at all to you. And I love Elden Ring. I think it's a great video game. But its UI is definitely one of its worst parts, in my opinion, because it just, as Brewer and I have been saying, it is not very user friendly.
Well, I feel mixed about it, because I feel like it's very polar, because like hardcore Souls fans I think won't have any issue with it, whereas beginners do, because I think its issue, like, it's kind of those three things we mentioned. Practicality wise, I think it actually is a pretty practical menu, like especially for like not being able to pause during boss battles. Like you can go through the menu pretty easily while also moving in battle, so like it works very well on that end. But on information display, that's where I think it's lacking, because for the amount of different stats you have in Elden Ring and the amount of different things you have to keep track of, they don't really do a good job of explaining them. And that goes for Dark Souls 3 as well.
Yeah, and it's like, that part to me, like, I'm not gonna say it's like it definitely feels like a bit like, you know, because the Soul series have like a reputation for being super hard, the menu also has to be harder to navigate and stuff like that.
I don't think it's intentional. I think
I
it's
don't
just
think
like
it's intentional. I'm just saying that it might be like a subconscious byproduct of that.
I just think it's like okay. I'm kind of with Brewer on this. Like, obviously, I'm a little biased because I am a Souls vet, but like, it is like a little like useful for stuff like in terms of like leveling up. Like, let's just say there's a weapon I'm using that I have equipped, and I'm leveling up a stat, and I want to do more damage with it. If I go to the Grace and select what level I want to level up, it will show me how much damage I do more, and it will show like the increase of like where of like how much more damage that weapon will be doing because of that. But also, I understand how that's not the most approachable when it comes to newer players, because like I think one of the biggest flaws in Elden Ring is the fact that it doesn't have. This kind of goes for like any Souls game, if I'm gonna be real. It doesn't have a defined tutorial on the stat system,
Yeah,
and I think it's more apparent with Elden Ring because of how many stats do damage and how many weapons there are on the game.
yeah. I think they're taking better steps towards, because like something I know is like I played Elden Ring first and Dark Souls 3 after. Elden Ring, like when I saw I was fat rolling, like it was showing me like, hey, if I put in all this heavy stuff, then I'll have a heavy load, medium load, a light load, or I'm overcome. But in Dark Souls 3, it didn't say it at all. Like it would tell me that like the percentage of my equip load, if it was at like 60, 70, 80%, but it wouldn't tell me like at what percentages like I like had a heavy load for like a heavy roll, which in the Souls games, if the heavier your roll is, the worse it is. And considering the fact that the main way to survive all those deadly bosses is by rolling, you want to try to keep that down as low as possible.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, but like I do like that they've been trying to take better steps in the right direction, because obviously they knew his problem. So like in Elden Ring, they gave you to note that like, hey, the equip load you have is like at a high enough percentage to where now you're doing a heavy roll, or now you're doing a medium roll versus a light roll. So where you may be like, oh crap, maybe I need to level up these stats more so I can handle it, or I need to change out a couple pieces of my armor.
Yeah.
I think this is such a big discussion because of how like middling it is. Like there are good aspects about it, but there are also like also aspects that are not the best about it. And I think that's just like
That's what's that.
I think it's an interesting discussion to have.
Polar topic.
It really is. But like I want to go to more like examples of like what I would consider or you guys would consider middling or like outright bad UIs.
On Scarlet and Violet.
Ooh.
I don't like the UI in Scarlet and Violet for one reason only. It is both very boring and low-key very hard to navigate a lot of the times, because for one, and this is opposed to every other, like 90% of all the other Pokemon games, is that it is just a like semi-transparent little pop-up menu that pops up whenever you hit the pause button. There's no like style, there's no substance. Like even Sword and Shield had more of style with the like pause menu and the menu UIs than this game does. So that's immediately like not a good sign. But also when you go into the menu, because like the way it's arranged is that it doesn't tell you what items, like the name of the like category of items that you're in. So like you'll have healing and battle items, but it won't say the name unless you are over. And even then, I don't think I can't remember if that's like true. It might just be like, oh, here's a symbol, and you have to guess which one of these it is. So good luck. And then you've also got like just a whole bunch of other stuff with like the party and like switching that out, and like it's a mess. And I think it was definitely a rough
Pokemon is so weird because sometimes they have like really good menus, and other times like, and in the very next game they'll change it up for no reason. Like biggest examples is like Pokemon X and Y. You had a very simple friend system, is like on the bottom screen, all your friends were displayed on the bottom. if you wanted to quickly like do a battle, get into a trade, a wonder trade, or any other like online function, boom, you just click on it. It's right there. And then for some godforsaken reason in Sun and Moon, you had to go to this stupid little like big ass circle plaza or something, and then just
Yeah.
slowly walk around to them instead of just being able to immediately click on them. Is like, why would you change this? Like, I get why the menus had to change when like they were moved over to console, because yeah, you don't have a second screen to work with. But why? We're still on the 3DS here. What are you guys doing?
Yeah,
But yeah,
it's
another thing I want to
bizarre.
rant about real quick before we move off of Pokemon. Something that's really annoyed me with their newer games is I'm glad that instead of like having a third game, they're doing the DLC. Well, I'm still kind of mixed on that, because it feels like they still purposely don't have a lot of content in there. That and some third games are good, like Black 2 and White 2, which are actually just new games. But at the same time, the one thing I hate about their modern DLC practices is anytime I open up the menu for, like, let's say Scarlet and Violet, and I think this also applies in Sword and Shield, you can't make this go away, I think, until you probably buy the DLC. But there is an advertisement for, hey, this is the DLC you don't have. This is all the cool stuff you're missing out on. Here's a link to go buy it on the eShop right now. Like, for one,
Yeah.
I feel like that's very...
Ubisoft does that a lot.
Yeah, I feel like that's very predatory, especially considering the amount of kids that play the games, because they're like, oh man, I don't have this cool thing. And like, obviously you gotta go to the menu to swap out your Pokemon and stuff, change your items.
You
So like,
always see it.
yeah, you always see it. It's a constant reminder of, damn, you broke, you don't got $30. Or damn, you didn't wanna shell out any money for our DLC that obviously has some stuff that probably should have been in base game.
Damn, you don't want to just give us money for very middling reward? Damn, you kind of suck, dog.
Yeah, but like, that isn't something that happens in like a lot of games, but like, it's Pokemon. It's a big enough game to where like, dude, why the hell is this here? You guys already sold like a cajillion copies. You really need to be this heavy on the, we got DLC, buy our DLC, even though it's glitchy as hell and we didn't have enough time to work on it.
Yeah,
That is something I want to talk about as well with like some of the Ubisoft games. They started implementing this in Assassin's Creed for some fucking reason.
I mean, it's
Where, like, in
Ubisoft.
the
What do you
menu-
expect?
That's true. Like in the menu tabs, like of course you have like your equipment tabs, the map, etc., skill tree. One of the tabs is like DLC, like just purely DLC. So no matter what, you're always going to see what extra stuff you could pay for the game, including cosmetics, items. Like I shit you not, you can buy legendary items that can break the game for you really early on. It's really predatory, and it's built into the UI. Like it is designed to make you know there is more content out there. You can have this cool stuff if you pay a little extra.
Hey Ubisoft, what was the thought process behind the decision of adding a DLC menu to your UI? Hello, I like money.
Yeah.
I like money.
I think something very similar could be said for like Overwatch's loot boxes. Like, that was very predatory as well. Like, it is still insane to me that to this day there's games like Balatro that don't even have any actual gambling. Like, you pay $15, you get to play the game as much as you want, and then you have games like fucking FIFA, COD, 2K, all these other games that like have actual elements of like simulated gambling. And hell, even in some trailers for like fucking 2K, they had like slot machines in there and shit. But no, that's apparently not gambling legally, because the law is fucking corrupt.
I know it's not a hot take with this group, but I definitely think it'd be a hot take on mine to like just say like those games like FIFA and honestly games like Genshin and stuff like that should be like monitored like actual gambling is, because that, I mean, it's what it is. It's literally like a worse version of gambling, because at least when you're gambling in real life, you're potentially going to win a lot of money, but in those games you're not winning anything except a soccer player or a anime girl. Like, you're not winning anything.
Okay, it's very predatory, especially like, oh, here's the percentages, here's what you could potentially get. This is a skin that like we could have just let you unlock in the game by naturally playing it, but no, you gotta put that money in, hope you get it. Not even just buy it, you gotta hope you get it.
Yeah, this is. I'm a little glad that a lot of games are sort of like taking a step back from that, because I think it's literally become illegal in some countries. Like I'm pretty sure you cannot have loot boxes in your games, or else they won't be able to be sold there because it's illegal. And also like just a lot more friendly to the consumer. Like Fortnite, like you could say stuff about whatever about like probably heavy priced microtransactions and stuff like that, but like Fortnite, Marvel Rivals, even Overwatch 2 got rid of their loot boxes. They still have a pretty shit monetization system, but I think a lot of like modern gaming monetization systems are still kind of shit. Like I did just say Marvel Rivals and Fortnite, but even then they don't have the best monetization systems, but they're a lot better than like Genshin and shit like that, where it's just straight up gambling. And I've also realized we have taken a very far step back from.
Yeah, I mean it's something we feel very passionate about because it's very scummy. I think we need to go back to some scummily designed menus.
Yeah, if hold on. If you like this video, you will get the Fetch Quest DLC of a microtransactions like loot box episode. Woo.
If you comment
like this kind of content,
if you comment, there's a 1 in 100 chance we will send you a Fetch Quest plushie free of charge.
We do not
but you have to subscribe first.
Exactly.
We're not being predatory at all. No pressure.
Yeah, buy our product.
Consume product.
Consume a product. But yeah,
I want to get back into like what's some annoying menus, so like menus that just piss you off.
I know this isn't
Xenoblade 2.
Oh yeah.
I mean, as someone who loves the game, yeah, those menus are kind of ass. I'm not gonna lie.
This isn't a game.
I'll keep it quick. You first.
No, because mine was gonna be a different game. There you go.
Yeah, I'll keep it quick. I think there are a lot of reasons why that game is bad, but the UI, I think, is just kind of unbearable in some instances. So like there's a mechanic in the game where you have to switch out blades, which are like pretty much equipables, so that you can bypass like certain obstacles in the area. And okay, it's cool that you use the blades to use their powers to like what's the word? To overcome whatever environmental obstacle is in your way. However, for you to go past said obstacle, you have to have them equipped. And there's no option to like automatically equip them or whatnot, or just say, hey, do it for me. You have to painstakingly check the blades that have the abilities that correspond with what you are trying to get past and equip them. So you have to completely fuck up your build that you were doing at the time to put on blades that you will never use, that you will only use for that specific environmental obstacle. And then once you have them equipped, you go past the obstacle, and then you have to do it again to put back on your main blades. Repeat this for a set amount of times depending on how much you play and story.
Yeah, that, and again, I love Xenoblade 2, but there's like a lot of information overload. And especially those tutorials are ass. Like there's no easy way around it. There's a reason they changed the tutorials up in Xenoblade 3, because like the developers heard and saw, they're like, damn, nah, we fucked up, guys. These tutorials are straight ass.
The one time Xenoblade 2 hating was justified.
No, menu and tutorial hating for Xenoblade 2 is always justified. Even if you're a true fan of it, you will hate it as well if you're not just gonna blindly defend it. Because like what guys says is like something that's so annoying, because you'll like get to a part of the game, they're like, okay, there's a big ass tree here, so obviously you need like a fire abilities to get through it. You need level 5 fire abilities, which can be combined. So like I need 5 level 1 blades that each have fire on them to burn this. So now I'm gonna equip it on like 3 of them to this party member, 2 of them to this party member, and then burn through it. And then, like I said, I can't save my my set that I had, so now I gotta equip all that shit back. I'm really happy for 3. They like let you have different loadouts that you could save. Because like, especially having 6 party members on the field at one time, I'd probably kill myself if I had to like do some similar shit, change out all of my equipment, and then change all of it back to get past one obstacle.
Yeah,
That's something that's
I
just
won't lie. I also think Xenoblade 3 has a UI issue.
it does to some degree. It's kind of weird. They take 2 steps forward, they take 1 step back a lot of times with their menus.
They do. It's just that, like, it sucks to navigate too, because the game doesn't make it easy to like search like what you're trying to get. You have to like painstakingly go through like minutes upon minutes of just like PNGs. This is Xenoblade 2, by the way, of like different blades, and then look at each individual one to see if they give you the skills that you need. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even then, like, you have to look in a menu for each blade past another menu. Like, you're going into a menu from... dude, it's so annoying.
Menuception.
yeah,
It is Menuception! It is Inception, but for menus! This is Xenoblade 2! Holy fuck!
Yeah, honestly, I love the Xenoblade games. I feel like all of them have had menu problems. Like, I feel like that's why they did a revamp for, like, 1's Definitive Edition. That and, like, why they made a lot of great strives for 3 to change it. But even then with 3, they had to add some updates to, like, fix the menus. Because they didn't have some of those features they implemented in the other games. I'm like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah. But...
Silly billies.
I think we might be getting to that time.
No, there's I think another couple cardinal sins we need to mention real quick.
Here, Brewer, mention them for me.
Okay.
My sweet one.
So next one is fighting game menus.
Oh god, yeah.
No, there's a shit ton of fighting games out there. There's a lot of easy ways to fuck up the menu. But biggest one, obviously clutter. Like, I need to be able to see the character I'm trying to select, that and how they're organized. 2, not having all the characters on screen. I hate that. I hate not being able to see all the characters. 3, multiple players not being able to select at the same time. And then 4, just again, too much info. And I think the game that has probably the worst fighting game menu of all time, in my opinion, is probably BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle. Because it has about all of it. So, first off, BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle is a crossover between a lot of different fighting games. So you got BlazBlue, you got Under Night, you have, well, not a fighting game, but you have Ruby, like the animated online series they actually made original kits for. Kind of a weird conclusion, but you know, all right. And then you have Persona 4. Well, Persona 4 Arena, but also had some Persona 3 characters, so that's cool. And then a couple sprinkle a little bit characters here and there. I think Arcana Heart, Senran Kagura, and then also this one really old game that has a literal tank in it. I'm not really sure what that's from, but you know, the tank is really cool, so I'll ignore that. Either way, for all these different crossovers of characters, they separate them into a couple different rows, like 5 rows. One for each of the main cast, and then another for just the like utter miscellaneous characters. You can't see all these rows at the same time, and all the characters from each series, if they go beyond like a certain threshold, you can't see all the characters, so you have to keep scrolling through to find them. Which I feel like they kind of did this to hide the fact that like some of the series in there don't have as many characters. Mostly I'm looking at Ruby, because like even with the DLC they added, they only had 5 characters in there versus the other games, which had like probably around 15 each, which I mean is fair because they had to make those from scratch, but that's another argument. But breaks those cardinal sins I mentioned. You can't see all the characters at once, and then you have way too much information on the screen at once. But then also, they make this even worse. They double that menu so the second player could choose at the same time. So, like, they avoided that sin because, like, both players can choose at the same time. But they did it by making the screen doubly as cluttered. By literally just putting the same menu down there. Like, God, I hate it. like as for annoyed I get with the Smash Ultimates menu for like not having different character organization options for series instead of when the character got into Smash. That is still 100 times better than whatever the hell the Blaze Blue cross tag team was smoking. God.
No, that's fair. Yeah, like
And
here's the thing.
And then no brewer was this passionate about Blaze Blue.
The funny thing is this cross tag battle because like I got it on the eShop for $5 randomly and I enjoyed it. I'm not even good at the game.
That's crazy. What was I about to say? Yeah, I mean, fighting game UI, it needs to be simple. It like when you got too much shit going on, it's just so hard to like be involved with it. Like that's why I love like Smash Ultimate and Street Fighter 6 like in-game UI. Like I'm not gonna defend like Smash's like UI outside of playing because like the menu, though good, it is kind of hard to know like where some stuff is sometimes. Like, right, tell me, you guys, you tell me where the option is from the main menu of buffing individual characters.
I think you have to go up to the top and then like select that as an option. Are you talking about the thing you can do to just like buff and nerf some of them, just to like give other players an advantage?
Yeah, you can yeah, there's a feature in Smash Ultimate where you can
you have to get
increase the damage you do and the damage and decrease the damage you take for a character. It's like an in-game buffing. It's like an in-game balancing thing.
You have to get to the options menu for that, right?
Yes, but where from there?
I don't know.
I think it's like a toggle.
Exactly.
And then you can finally select it in the menu.
Well, Guy, I'm also
it is kind of a niche feature, so like I'm not gonna be as hard on that.
Yeah.
No, at the same time, I would like if it's more front and center, so like we could do more Steven Sonic nerfs. Like, all right, -3 for these characters only. No other changes.
Okay, but the point I'm making though is that like you wouldn't know because like people will think that is in games and more because of how unique of a concept it is, even though it is something you apply in the settings. Some people still don't know about that feature because of its lack of utilization in the game's main UI.
Well, that I think just like the lack of utilization of it at all, in all honesty.
Yeah.
Smash has like so much crammed into it. There's just like a lot of features you just kind of forget are there.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to like custom battles, you forget like how many different things you can toggle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think
there's one last thing I wanna mention before we close this video up. And I think it's to do with like we've mentioned like how older games have like a lot of trouble with their menus versus like new games. And I think part of the reason I want to mention that is because of like hardware limitations. And I think games that are perfect representations of this, where like the old games are like kind of clunky to get through at some points, but like the remakes did a good job of streamlining a lot of things, are the Zelda games. Specifically, the ones I want to look at is Link's Awakening and Ocarina of Time. Because for Link's Awakening, it had a hardware limitation because it was on the Game Boy. So you only had a couple buttons to work with. So you had to go to the menu a lot, and I mean a lot, just to switch around your items to get through a couple puzzles. But in the remake, we're working with the Switch Pro controller or the Joy-Cons, so you have a lot more buttons to work with. So they were able to streamline it a lot more and make parts of it less frustrating because you're working with new hardware that's not a clunky ass Game Boy that you can't see without a warm light at night. And I think also Ocarina of Time, it was released for the Nintendo 64. That did have a lot more buttons, and they certainly, I don't think you need to have a second screen to fix this, but a good example is the Water Temple. To get through that dungeon, you need to constantly take some iron boots on and off, so you either float or sink in the water. And in the original game, you just had to constantly go into the menu and then equip and de-equip them. But the 3DS games just said, screw that. they're just an item now. So you can just equip them and not equip them on the fly with a button that are just on the bottom screen. So like they've changed it through like hardware, but then also just better design in general.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's not something you think about too much until it becomes the issue of you got to constantly go to the menu to swap these things out. Now you hate the menu and you want it to burn.
Yeah, as someone who played Ocarina of Time, the N64 edition, that was a very big pain in the ass. Same with Majora's Mask, but I think Majora's Mask is a lot better than Ocarina of Time, so I give it a pass there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's just a last little thing I wanted to look at with like some bad UI designs.
Yes.
Just some bad menus in general.
I think a clear distinction we need to make here is that just because a game might have like a bad UI or like hell, and even a predatory one, that doesn't mean it's a bad game. You know what I mean?
Except for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, that is just a bad game.
No, that is just a bad game. Yeah, that game is ass.
I don't think it's terrible, but that's a discussion for another day.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. UI is just something that like it's mostly for player convenience, but like even if it's like this is just the kind of my concluding thoughts on this. UI, I think, is just really important to talk about because it can make the experience of gaming so much better in terms of like navigating menus and like understanding how the game works. And it's something we often don't really think about when we're playing our games, but when it becomes way too complicated, it can be something that like that drags people away from a game, and you just might not realize it. Even, I bet you right now that one of your favorite games that you've ever played might not have the best UI, and it might have caused a few people to turn away from it because it's just not approachable to them. And that's completely fair. But I think it's just important to understand the strengths of UI and how even though it's not like the main center point of a game, it adds so much little shit that can make like a great experience an amazing experience.
Yeah, again, it's not something that's always going to be at the forefront of your thoughts, but it's something that like, especially if you're developing a game, you want to get it right the first time. Sort of like how when Miyamoto was designing Mario to jump, before they designed the rest of the game, they make sure the jumping feels right. You want to make your menus feel right before you touch a lot of the rest of your game as well, because you want it to be streamlined, easy to go through, but and also you just want it to have a lot of personality to show what your game is about. Because if you just have like a bunch of blank text boxes with like nothing in them and just basic descriptions, that's kind of telling your players, okay, this is kind of basic, there's not much to it. Versus if you just make it maybe flamboyant to give it some flair and edge, maybe you give it some whimsy and charm, just to show what your game is really about.
Yeah, no, of course.
Any concluding thoughts, Connor?
Basically just what you guys were saying. Like, I think UI, it's not a make or break thing, but it is something that like I think is very important because, I mean, with Ocarina of Time, my experience with that game very much was tainted by how awful the menus were, and so I think it's something that you have to be very careful with because you can easily mess it up, but you can also make it something great like Persona 5 or any of the other good games we talked about in this video. But yeah, that's essentially my concluding points.
Oh yeah.
All right, guys, well, it's about that time for us to close up. So if you liked this video, maybe go to the user interface of YouTube to find that like button and that subscribe button and just smash it for us.
Remember, if you
comment down, you first.
If you comment, we'll do gambling and microtransactions and video games video.
Maybe comment down below what your favorite UI is in a video game.
You want to
maybe comment one that pisses you off and you want to shoot it with a shotgun.
Xenoblade 2.
But with that being said, we have been Fetch Quest. Goodbye.
Bye, everybody.
Thank y'all so much. We'll see y'all later.